I want to try something a little different with this next story, because instead of walking you through it chronologically the way I usually do, I want to start with the single moment that made this entire segment must-watch television. Stephen A. Smith, mid-sentence, stopped talking completely, looked directly into the camera and said, and I'm quoting him as precisely as I can recall, that this specific trade represents exactly the kind of move a genuinely disciplined front office makes when they stop chasing splashy names and start solving actual specific tactical problems. The topic, PJ: Washington has been traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers, and honestly, once you dig into the specific tactical fit here, you understand exactly why Stephen A. got that animated about what might initially look like a fairly modest roster transaction on the surface, but which actually reveals genuine basketball sophistication once you look closer at the underlying history between these specific players. Let me set the stage first, because Washington's specific situation in Dallas genuinely matters for understanding why this trade happened right now. The Mavericks have been actively working through their own roster reconstruction around their young core, building specifically around their newer foundational pieces, rather than continuing to carry the exact complementary personnel that surrounded Doncic during his previous tenure there. Washington, on a contract that still has meaningful money remaining but genuinely fits a specific timeline the Mavericks are pivoting away from, became exactly the kind of trade chip that motivated front offices circle back to once other splashier trade targets don't materialize for whatever specific reason. Here's exactly how this story broke, and I want to walk through the specific reasoning because it reveals real basketball sophistication rather than just star power chasing that dominates so much of typical NBA trade coverage. According to the reporting, Rob Pelinka's front office had specifically identified Washington as their preferred remaining target once both the Kuminga pursuit collapsed and the specific mechanics of alternative power forward solutions proved more financially complicated than initially expected across the broader trade market. The specific appeal here, according to multiple credible sources, centers on Washington's direct previous experience playing alongside Luka Doncic during Dallas's run to the 2024 NBA Finals, meaning this isn't a player who needs to learn brand new chemistry with the Lakers franchise cornerstone. He's already lived it at the highest possible stakes in genuinely recent memory in a playoff environment that specifically tested exactly the kind of two-man chemistry that translates directly into winning basketball when it matters most. The reaction from inside the Lakers locker room came quickly, and this specific response tells you exactly why the front office prioritized this particular fit over other statistically comparable alternatives available on the broader market. One of the Lakers' current players posted a message specifically referencing how much offensive rhythm Washington and Doncic had already established during their previous playoff run together, tagging it directly to specific pick-and-pop concepts that instantly become available once you have a returning shooter who already understands exactly how to read Luka's downhill gravity and space the floor accordingly, rather than needing an extended adjustment period to develop that same level of instinctive chemistry from scratch during actual competitive games. Now here's the whiplash moment, because most national analysts had actually written off any realistic Washington to Lakers connection weeks earlier, specifically because his remaining contract length seemed to conflict with the Lakers' broader long-term financial planning around Doncic's eventual second contract negotiations, which every single roster decision this front office makes now has to be evaluated against. The sudden reversal genuinely surprised people who had been tracking this situation closely throughout the summer. But once you understand that the Lakers front office ultimately concluded immediate on-court chemistry with their franchise cornerstone was worth accepting some long-term financial complexity, the logic actually holds up remarkably well when you consider exactly how much value-proven chemistry with a superstar genuinely provides compared to the alternative of gambling on completely unproven fits. 3 specific reasons emerged for why this reporting carries genuine confidence. First, direct confirmation that Dallas had been quietly exploring trade scenarios for Washington for weeks as part of their broader roster reconstruction around their young core, indicating this wasn't purely an opportunistic pursuit, but rather a negotiation that had genuinely been developing behind the scenes for some time before becoming public. Second, evidence that the Lakers front office had specifically prioritized his previous chemistry with Doncic as a genuine tiebreaker over other, statistically similar power forward options available on the market, suggesting a level of tactical sophistication in their evaluation process that goes beyond simply chasing the most talented available name, regardless of specific fit considerations. Third, and this is genuinely the most compelling detail, confirmation that Washington himself had expressed real enthusiasm about reuniting with Doncic specifically, given how well their previous partnership had translated into genuine playoff success just a couple years earlier before both players' respective career paths diverged following Doncic's own subsequent trade to Los Angeles. Stephen A. His specific critique, once his initial excitement settled, focused on the financial complexity this trade creates for the Lakers' longer-term roster flexibility, specifically questioning whether committing multiple years of salary to a role player, even one with genuine previous chemistry with Doncic, represents the wisest use of the Lakers' already limited remaining financial flexibility given their broader championship timeline, uncertainty, and the enormous financial commitment that awaits them once Doncic himself becomes eligible for his own maximum extension in the coming seasons. The reasonable counter is that genuine, proven chemistry with your franchise's most important player carries real, quantifiable value that pure statistical projection often underweights, and locking in a known commodity who already understands exactly how to play alongside Doncic genuinely reduces the kind of integration risk that has plagued other less proven additions throughout this Lakers offseason, including some of the earlier speculative pursuits that ultimately didn't materialize into completed trades at all. Let's talk about the human side of this trade, because Washington's specific reunion with Doncic carries genuine professional significance beyond pure roster mechanics. Getting a second opportunity to build on genuine previous success with a superstar teammate, this time in a completely different market and organizational context, represents exactly the kind of career validation that professional athletes rarely get to experience twice with the same specific partner. Washington has spoken publicly in the past about how meaningful that specific 2024 finals run was to his own career development, and reuniting with the exact player who helped make that possible, even under such dramatically different circumstances now, carries genuine emotional resonance for him personally beyond simply the basketball logistics of the trade itself. Let's also spend real time discussing the specific tactical breakdown of exactly why this fit works so well on paper, because I think it's worth going deeper than just the surface level chemistry narrative. Washington's specific ability to defend multiple positions, switch effectively onto smaller perimeter players when needed, and still provide legitimate rim protection when matched up against bigger frontcourt threats gives Redick genuine defensive versatility that complements Doncic's own defensive limitations, which have been a consistent point of criticism throughout his career regardless of which organization he's played for. Offensively, Washington's specific willingness to play off the ball, relocate to open spaces rather than demanding the ball in isolation situations, and knock down catch-and-shoot opportunities created by Doncic's downhill gravity represents exactly the kind of low-maintenance offensive fit that maximizes a superstar's individual playmaking burden rather than competing with it. Now let's address the honest risk here. Washington's specific defensive consistency has fluctuated across different team contexts throughout his career, and there's real uncertainty about whether his previous chemistry with Doncic translates identically within the Lakers' specific defensive scheme and overall roster context, which differs meaningfully from what Dallas previously ran around both players during that earlier playoff run. Team defensive systems matter enormously in the modern NBA, and simply having previously played alongside a specific superstar doesn't automatically guarantee the same level of defensive cohesion within an entirely different scheme, with different surrounding personnel, and different overall defensive priorities established by a different coaching staff. Let's also spend real time discussing what this move means for Dallas's broader rebuilding timeline, because moving off Washington accelerates their pivot toward building exclusively around their younger core pieces, giving them additional financial flexibility precisely when their organizational focus has shifted toward a longer-term timeline that no longer prioritizes immediate veteran complementary pieces who were originally acquired to support a completely different championship timeline that no longer exists following Doncic's own departure from that organization. Let's also address the calendar pressure specific to this trade, because with the season rapidly approaching, resolving the power forward question through a player with genuine proven chemistry with Doncic eliminates significant integration risk that a completely unfamiliar addition would have introduced this late in the offseason preparation process, when practice time and preseason games represent the only remaining opportunities to establish genuine on-court cohesion before regular season. results actually start counting toward playoff positioning. Let's also talk about how this specific trade fits into the broader pattern of how the Lakers front office has approached roster construction this entire offseason, consistently prioritizing pieces that have genuine, demonstrable chemistry with Doncic specifically, whether through previous professional relationships or through specific skill sets that complement his particular playmaking style. That's a coherent, identifiable organizational philosophy that suggests real thoughtfulness behind what might otherwise look like a series of disconnected roster moves throughout an eventful and occasionally chaotic offseason. Let's also consider the broader financial mechanics one more time, because absorbing Washington's remaining contract years genuinely represents a calculated bet that his specific value to this roster justifies accepting some reduced future financial flexibility. Every dollar committed to complementary pieces now represents a dollar that won't be available when Doncic's own maximum extension negotiations eventually arrive, and the Lakers front office clearly concluded that securing proven chemistry now was worth that specific long-term trade-off, a genuinely defensible position given how difficult it can be to find complementary pieces who already understand exactly how to play alongside a superstar of Doncic's specific caliber and style. So let me bring this one home. The three core reasons for confidence in this reporting were: first, Dallas actively exploring trade scenarios as part of their broader reconstruction; second, the Lakers specifically prioritizing proven chemistry with Doncic over other statistically similar options; and third, Washington's own genuine enthusiasm about reuniting with his previous championship caliber running mate. And the receipt validating all of this sits right there in that specific chemistry-focused reaction from a current Lakers player who clearly already understood exactly what tactical value this addition brings to their offense. Here's what I'm watching next. How quickly Washington and Doncic can recapture that specific 2024 playoff chemistry in a completely different organizational context is going to tell us everything about whether this move ends up looking like the shrewdest tactical decision of the Lakers' entire offseason, or whether the different surrounding personnel and different coaching system ultimately prevents that previous magic from fully translating into this new environment. Do you think Washington's previous chemistry with Luka Doncic makes him the ideal power forward solution for the Lakers? Or do you think the financial commitment involved creates unnecessary long-term complications given the roster's broader timeline uncertainty? Drop your honest take in the comments below. Hit that like button if this breakdown helped you understand exactly why this tactical fit makes so much sense. And make sure you're subscribed because there's plenty more Lakers coverage coming your way.